It's my pleasure to introduce to you Frank Mong, an alumni of ECE, who will give the keynote talk from UC Davis Engineering to running a crypto startup in Web3 and Decentralized Universe. Frank received his BSEE from UC Davis in 1997. Frank is now the Chief Operating Officer at Helium. Helium's mission is to leverage the power of a wireless technology and blockchain to build the People's Network, the world's fastest growing decentralized wireless network, now deployed in over 46,000 cities and 163 countries globally. Before Helium, Frank spent 20 years in cybersecurity, including Chief Marketing Officer at Hortonworks, Senior Vice President of Marketing at Palo Alto Networks, and as Vice President and General Manager of Security at Hewlett-Packard. Just a procedural issue. During the talk, please use the Q&A feature that you see at the bottom of your screen to pose questions. And Professor Z Ding will be monitoring these questions and then will present the questions to Frank at the end of the talk. Frank, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Andre. Thank you, Professor Z, for having me here. I have some slides prepared to give this talk. I think I geared the conversation towards the students at UC Davis. Yeah, I'm very honored to be here, and I wanted to share sort of my thoughts on both my time at UC Davis as an electrical engineer, computer engineering major, as well as really share with you sort of my perspective and point of view on how important it is to really struggle in order to win. And so I thought, instead of giving you guys very prescriptive, everything was happy and great, I would try my best to be extremely transparent and share with you sort of my thoughts and feelings about what it takes to win and how much failure and effort it does take before you can see success. I was a graduate class of 1997, and I spent 5 years at UC Davis. Started my time there in 1992 when I came into this school. And at that time, I was 18 years old as a freshman in the ECE program. Two very important things happened to me. First, this was my 1.7. I had to check my transcripts to be sure, but I believe this was my GPA in Q1 or Q2. So started off with a bang, unfortunately with the wrong direction. This is the first time I actually didn't do very well into that level. Coming out of high school into UC Davis, I was a decent student, 3.5, 3.6 GPA. I don't know if I would be able to get into UC Davis today, but it was shocking. It was shocking, I think, to say the least, to be in the ECE program. Most of it was because at 18 years old, first time in college, I think I saw the world for the first time, is probably the best way to put it. And my grades did suffer dramatically, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But that's where I think I saw a huge amount of failure through grades. My job was to, of course, study at UC Davis, and I didn't do a very good job at that, of course. So that's where I saw my first unfortunate failure, and I got a letter from the dean at that point. I don't think it's the same dean we have now. Can't remember his name. The second important thing that happened to me freshman year, this was in December of 1992. I met the love of my life, actually, in the dorms. She's now my wife, and we've been married for over 21 years. But that's all thanks to that same sort of dramatic event in 1992. Failed hard for the first time in my life at something that I was supposed to be good at. And of course, something amazing happened to me as well that I was not expecting, which is to meet someone that I will love forever. And I'm still married and happily married. And so something had to change. And I in retrospect, I don't think I would understand the importance of adapting and persevering and understanding sort of what failure brings. So I had to adjust. right? Got a letter from the dean saying that, look, you can't maintain a 1.7 GPA. You have to improve that to minimum level. I don't remember what the minimums are anymore for the EC college, probably like 2.5 or something. So I had to figure out how to do that. And unless I failed, I don't think I would have figured out how to actually improve. And so one thing had to change. I was playing men's volleyball for the varsity team at UC Davis. So was very into sports. Playing volleyball was a big part of my high school years, and I looked forward to it at UC Davis. And I was really excited about that. And I did not want to give it up, but I had to. I had to give up volleyball in order to spend more time on my studies and improving my grades. And so I had to make that choice. It was very hard for me at the time, at 18, to choose the books in the library instead of the volleyball in the gym. And so I made that change, but I don't think that was enough. I think changing behavior, changing study habits, managing your time better, those are all important things you learn in life as you grow and as you mature. But I think without these people in my life at UC Davis, I wouldn't have made it. These are all folks part of the ECE program. I didn't include their last names because I wasn't sure if they would be open for me to make it public. So I'll just use their first names. Holly, Larry, Camille, Alan, Steve. They're both very close friends at UC Davis, and I've stayed in touch with most of them through my career. And they're all incredible people. Some were like me. We had to work really hard to do well or to just perform average on the bell curve during tests, and some were incredibly bright, and they were able to actually pick things up very quickly. And so this was the formation of our study group. Sandra's my wife, so I had to include her in there as a really important person in my life, even at Davis, and helping support me through that effort. But having support and asking for help, I realized was crucial. And that's something else you learn only when you're sort of desperate, right? When you're in desperate situations, you start to think differently and you start to think creatively. And so finding the right people, either that are like you, who need to study hard to do well, or finding folks that are really kind, incredibly bright, can pick up the subject matter very quickly, but are willing to teach you and guide you along the way. That kind of formation at UC Davis, I think, is crucial for success, but also I think for life, because they become really close friends over time. And that work you do together as a team to overcome challenges at school or for tests or projects, I think ultimately help define, your character and who you could be. And so these are the folks I really wanted to thank as part of my time at UC Davis that really supported me to get me through that hard times. And this is sort of the GPA I graduated with, 3.0. I don't have my transcript anymore, so maybe it was a little less, a little more, something in that range. But you can see over 5 years, going from a 1.7 and digging myself out of a hole through all the classes at Davis in the ECE program into a 3.0 was very hard. It was a lot of work, and it was a lot of learning over that period of time. I'm certainly not the best student, and I'm very honored and thankful to have this opportunity to share this with you. But there's so many great kids out there, great professors, great TAs that want you to succeed in the ECE program. So I would say, leverage that, take full use of all the resources, because everyone wants you to do well, and don't give up. Keep believing in yourself. You have to push forward. It was very difficult to make it through this. My wife, Sandra, was a big part of, encouraging me to stay with it. My parents, my mom and dad, were very supportive as well over that period. But through sort of those hard times, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. There's always sort of, hope at the end of hard work. So I encourage you all to push for that. When I graduated from Davis in 1997, the economy was actually pretty good for engineers. I remember in 96, 97, 98, there was quite a boom in Silicon Valley, especially around fabrication and chips and silicon. CPU innovation was really happening. Fabrication of chips was happening. So it really helped to graduate during that period of time. So I got really lucky, I think, on timing as an electrical engineer. And what I did, though, over the last 20 years was probably not what I should have done. However, it's what I knew. And thinking back on it, I focused, I think, on the wrong things. But it also helped me get to where I am today. I focused on money. So I show an emoji of a bag of money. I really focused on earning a lot of money, as much as I could. And I focused on climbing the corporate ladder, focused on, going after companies that were either public or going to become public so I can make more money. And for those 20 years, I did okay. I don't think I was the best at what I was doing. But I think for me, I was doing it for the wrong reasons. Looking back on it now, I can say that, doing work for money and for title or for prestige, it really, really doesn't satisfy what you really want to do. And it doesn't really solve sort of the problem of what is your passion and what drives you, motivates you. Those things are material. It's important, I think, for folks to find a way to make a living, find a way to do well in life. But it'd be great, and it's a blessing if you can do that while also doing things you're passionate about. And I think for me, over those 20 years that Andre mentioned in cybersecurity, I don't know if I was actually passionate about what I was doing. It was great, and I was very lucky and blessed to be in that environment. And a lot of people did really well in those environments, and the passionate ones you could see were exceptional. And I never got there. I feel like in those 20 years, I never got to becoming exceptional or the full potential of who I could be. And I think what was stopping me was I just wasn't passionate about what I was doing. And so I think there was a lot of learnings there. And it wasn't until 2017, at the time when I was CMO of Hortonworks, and I was only CMO for 2 months. I took the job for all the wrong reasons. I joined the company for the title, for the money, but ultimately it wasn't the right company for me. The leadership and the culture just, it wasn't a fit. And I'm happy I decided to leave because that was another critical moment for me. If I didn't leave and I stayed for all the wrong reasons, I don't know where I would be. But because I did decide, hey, look, I made a mistake. Here's another point in time where perhaps I failed. I failed to recognize what's most important, which is what I really want to do and the things that I want to do with the people that are the best match for me. And I didn't do that. I chose to go to a place for all the wrong reasons. But that mistake and that failure really led me to finding the right place, which is Helium, and where I am now for the last 4.5 years. Joining Helium was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. I was very lucky. Helium is a company that's founded by Helium. He's the CEO currently, and a guy named Sean Fanning. He got famous from his Napster days, where he created the first music sharing technology. The two formed this company 9 years ago to really solve the problem of connecting Internet of Things sensors to the internet in a very open and a very affordable way. And when they wanted to tackle this problem, they didn't really quite figure out how to do it all. And I remember when I first met Amir in 2017, and we were talking about it, he was interviewing me for the job. I was sort of, more like transparent, honest than I normally would be at a job interview, because I think I was interviewing him more than he was interviewing me, right? I just left a situation that I think I went for all the wrong reasons, and I didn't want to do that again. And so I wanted to make sure that wherever I go next, I did it for all the right reasons. And after talking with Amir and interviewing him for 3 months, 3 months. This process took 3 months because I kept saying, no, I shouldn't go to Helium because I felt like I couldn't add value. I felt like I wasn't going to be good enough for that small group of 10 engineers. I finally said yes, and it was a huge leap for me to say yes, because at the time the company only had about a year of money left in the bank to support the company. So really had to figure out what to do. And this is where sort of luck comes in, like timing and luck. I joined just at the right time where the company was trying to figure out how it can actually build this massive wireless network. It went through lots of pivots. The company also, made a lot of mistakes. And in those pivots and mistakes are where the company really learned. And so again, you see, you have to fail in order to really understand what you can do and where you should go. And so the company failed multiple times. I think they probably tried 100 different ways to go to market and try to find product market fit. They spent thousands of hours building technology, and that tech just didn't quite help them get to where they wanted to go. And that vision of creating this global network just wasn't quite there. And it wasn't until we were literally not going to have money left. Like the company, if we couldn't figure this out, would have to close. And it wasn't until then, and sort of towards the middle or the end of 2017, is where we actually discovered crypto and blockchain. I remember that distinctly because back then in 2017, Bitcoin and Ethereum became like household words. You couldn't avoid it. It was on CNN, it was on CNBC, it was on the news, people talking about mining Bitcoin and mining Ethereum. And that triggered an idea with our engineers. And they thought, hey, what if we could combine cryptocurrency with wireless networks? Maybe we can build a product that enabled individuals, consumers, to share their internet and share it in a way where IoT devices can connect from long ranges, miles away. And for the person sharing, they would mine a cryptocurrency. And that's where the idea came from. And we used that idea and we built the technology, which became essentially a new business model for individuals to become a cell tower. Any person, any individual can now easily create this cell tower business for IoT devices. And that's sort of the magic here. That was something that I think can only have come because we were near sort of the end of the road, and we really had to get creative to survive. That challenge and failure and learning and the effort really led to this winning model. And this model made a whole lot of sense, especially because what we did was we created the technology, the crypto technology, the blockchain technology, which is called the Helium blockchain, and it produces a cryptocurrency called HNT. That allowed individuals to participate, and we open sourced everything. And so we initially built some hardware, we sold the hardware, something like 12,000 hotspots in the United States and in Europe. And after we sold out, we had 10, 20, now 30 manufacturers from all over the place build on this open source technology, and they became the folks providing and selling the hardware. And today, the network is about 700,000 or 709,000 hotspots around the world. We're across 169 countries. We're in 53,000 cities. And I'm going to quickly show you what that looks like on a map, and then I'll come back to this. But this is the map. This is explore.helium.com. This is an open source page, shows you in real time the network. It's a great start. It's in United States, North America. It's across Western Europe. It's in parts of China, starting to grow in India as well, in Southeast Asia and Australia. But we have a lot more ground to cover. We have Africa, South America. There's a lot more work to do, for sure. But this is the result of open sourcing technology and building something that has, I think, captured the imagination of everyone around the world. And so we're very fortunate to be in this position and to now have a network that's thriving. And so the growth has been phenomenal on the network side. And this is sort of some ideas for what individuals have done, right? You could either put a Helium hotspot or a compatible hotspot by the window in your living room or your kitchen, or, you know, if you're a crafty engineer, you can get on your roof and play with the gains on the antennas and the power. And this has become a fantastic effort by the community, by individuals and people around the world. So this network's become the people's network in a sense, because it is owned by individuals. The blockchain enables that, the crypto gives the incentive, and it's governed and managed in a decentralized way by a shared ledger across all of the hotspots. And so what? Now you have a network. What does that mean? Well, we have tons of users using a network now. Tons meaning thousands of sensors. We have large companies that are using our network from different roaming relationships. Companies like Volvo, Ford, Coca-Cola, large organizations using this, Lime scooters. And we have really small startups, and we have small companies that are creating new applications using our network as well. One of the cool ones that I love is Drone Deck. Drone Deck is building a drone delivery system. And they're based out of Cleveland, Ohio. And we have technology companies like M3 Agriculture that's using our technology to the network to change how they manage crops and grow food without pesticides. And so there's a number of things I think that's growing out of this network that adds value and sustainability to the planet, which I think is fantastic. Other things I think that are amazing coming out of this ecosystem is unique uses of the Helium cryptocurrency itself. City of San Jose has adopted Helium hotspots and mining as a way to offset the cost of internet access for low-income families. So during COVID, this became a huge problem. About 90,000 residents in San Jose didn't have internet access because they could not afford it. And of course, their kids couldn't get to Zoom school because they didn't have internet. And that, I think, highlighted the issue for them. And so they decided to use Helium hotspots and the mining of HNT as a way to create the system to help pay for the internet access for the kids that need it most. So that's a awesome and a unique way to think about universal basic income for internet, right? And so that was awesome to see with San Jose. Now other cities around the world are using that model as well. So that's a pretty cool thing to do with crypto in a wireless network at the same time to benefit, you know, the folks that really need it. What's next for us is 5G. As we move forward, Helium and its community, because everything's open source, has started down the path of taking this incentive model, taking this new business model into the 5G world and offering, in at least the United States, an open approach to building a wireless network that can support iPhones and Android and iPads and laptops. And so certainly like campuses like UC Davis could benefit from this if everyone was everyone there owned the network, owned the on-ramp to the internet using an open source stack. And so our partners and ecosystem players are working on this and building this, which is fantastic. If you want to join us and you're interested, we certainly have everything on GitHub. So we're open, and the code, the hardware designs, everything's on github.com/helium. Join us on Twitter. Our Discord channel has about 170,000 technical members now. So check out our Discord. And if you need a summer job and you haven't found an internship yet, just email me, frank@nova.xyz. Love to chat and see if we can do something together. Remember, like, you know, when I said what was important was your passion, and that instead of money and fame and, you know, climbing the corporate ladder, I think everyone hits that inflection at different points in their lives. For me, it came a little later. You know, I was in that rat race for 20 years. It wasn't until later in my life, I figured out, the most important things to me shouldn't be about money, right? It should be about family, about the team that you're working with, about the mission and the goals that you're striving for. And really importantly, which it's really about the journey and how you can enjoy that journey. That's priceless. I don't think you can buy that with any amount of money. But to really enjoy any of this, you really need to fail. I think failing is super important with this journey. And I sort of shared 2 points in my life, both in my academic life as well as my career, where I think I failed, and I failed miserably. But I think those were the most important points and most important inflection points in my life, because that drove how I spent my time and the effort I put in to change the situation I was in, which ultimately led to what I would consider winning. For me, in my point of view, I'm winning now, and I'm doing what I want to do. I'm passionate about the effort. I'm passionate about the team, the mission, the journey, my family. And I think ultimately, if we, as Helium, as me, Frank, if we're successful, we will truly disrupt the telecommunication industry the same way that Uber has done it to the taxi industry, and Airbnb has disrupted the hotel industry. Hopefully, next 10 years, you guys will remember this conversation and you'll think back, hey, I remember that guy, Frank from Helium. They really disrupted the telecommunication industry. With that, I'll take question and answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank, for inspiring talk. We see one question on the bridge. I'll rephrase it. The question is, given that the blockchain was a fairly new technology, and given the fact that your company initially was focusing on other technologies, how did the team transition itself either to learn the new technology about blockchain and develop hardware, or do you have to go out and replace your engineers with a new batch?
Yeah, and I think you'll hear this from a lot of folks, but we do have amazing engineers at Helium. We're a very small team. At the time when we were pivoting, we were only about 10 to 12 people, very small team. And we were trying to do something massive that's massively disruptive. The background of the team was mostly wireless technology and distributed systems. Amir Helium, our CEO and co-founder, he taught himself over 5 years wireless protocols, unlicensed spectrum, sub-gigahertz technology. He's self-taught. He's a college dropout. He's a self-taught individual. He's an amazing engineer, amazing developer. And the team that he hired around him were all very successful engineers in the wireless world or distributed systems world. And when it comes to distributed systems and blockchain, there's some, I think, analogies that make sense. It's all about communications between systems, being connected and meshing. And then in the blockchain world, it's really the blockchain is if you dumb it down to the basics, it's a very inefficient way to store data, right? Because it's distributed, and to keep track of that ledger across multiple points is very hard. And I think our team there spent probably the most time figuring out how to create a brand new layer 1 blockchain that would do what we needed, which is, in the world of wireless technology, enable individuals in their hotspots to prove that they're real and they're providing coverage, and they're able to transmit the data back to the owner, all in an anonymous, encrypted manner. So that tech, I would say, took us about 1.5 years to develop, across 6 to 8 people that were on this project, and very difficult. When we launched in 2019, I would say the launch itself was really a beta product. Imagine we built a plane, we got it to fly, we're all on it, and we hadn't actually figured out how to land the plane. We only got it to fly. Now we're in the air and we had to keep it flying because we don't know how to land this thing. So that's sort of how startups work. And that's what we had to do because we didn't have time to figure everything out because we would run out of money. And that proof of life in a way that this thing could work allowed us to raise our Series C funding. So we gave ourselves another year and a half to 2 years.
Yeah. Thank you, Frank. That's why you are flying helium balloons because you don't have to worry about landing.
That's right.
We're glad you are not flying airplanes.
That's right.
Wonderful. Thank you for the answer. I have another question. I know that you talked about chasing the wrong thing in the beginning, i.e. money, but clearly you're a company, so there is always the business model question. You need to make money. So here's the next question is, congratulations on your success and your journey, but could you describe Helium's business model and income stream a bit more? Basically, how does Helium make money from people setting up hotspots and trading crypto?
Yeah, we don't. We open sourced everything. Our mission at the time, and still is to create a global, ubiquitous, low-cost network that was open and accessible for IoT devices. So comparatively, Christina, like your cell phone plan, it doesn't matter who you're using. It probably costs between like $50 to $100 a month, right? Imagine if like a little air quality sensor like this is actually a water sensor. Here we go. This little water sensor here, or moisture sensor. That's like a $2.50 sensor, and it can't pay $50 a month to connect via cellular to the internet. That economic model doesn't make any sense, right? But it's really important to make sure that your apartment doesn't leak or your building's not leaking. Water's the biggest enemy to real estate. So how do you do that? Like, how do you get an application to help you prevent water damage and leaks while not having to pay $50 a month of cellular data plan? That's where Helium and the network becomes important, right? Because it's very low cost. Like for that little sensor, it's $1 a year to collect data, $1 a year. And that's paying the blockchain, not paying Helium. So we open source everything, meaning we don't collect. Like there's no tax, there's no fees, there's no hidden anything. And we don't make money. There's no business for us. And so what we did was we focused on getting the network built over the last 2 years. We focused on getting folks to try the network and use the network. Once the flywheel picked up, once the network started to go, once users started to come, we recently raised another round of funding, a Series D round of funding at $1 billion pre-money, and we raised 200 million. So now we're worth $1.2 billion as a company. Now we're going to build the application on top of this ecosystem, on top of the business model of crypto. And what we plan to do, at least this is what we're striving for, is to take this crypto business model and apply it to 5G, enable every individual to become a cell tower, and then give you the tools and the application you need to both build a community 5G network, as well as convince users to come and use it. Think of it as like a next-gen ISP or a distributed ISP. So that's our dream. That's our dream, is to go and build the tools for that, create a business model around that, similar to Airbnb, enabling a two-sided marketplace for internet access.
Well, thank you very much, Frank. That's all the questions I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a special announcement. To begin with, let me read this particular paragraph. The ECE Distinguished Alumni Award from the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering at University of California, Davis recognizes outstanding alumnus whose professional and personal achievements, I emphasize professional and personal achievement, bring special honor to the department. This award is the highest recognition presented by the EC department to alumni. On behalf of the Development and Alumni Relations Committee and the EC department, I'm pleased to present this year's winner of the ECE Distinguished Alumni Award to Frank Mong, BSCE 1997. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Frank.
Thank you, Professor Z. Thank you. And thank you, Andre.
As you all know by now, Frank has had a long career in tech companies specializing in information technology. We are very proud of his accomplishment, especially his exciting works at Helium and his incredible journey. I now pass the virtual podium to Frank. Frank?
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Andre. And thank you to all the ECE staff members and professors. I don't deserve this. I really don't. I am very flattered and honored. There are so many alums that have done much greater work than me. I think there are ECE graduates that are doing work to help mankind make this planet more sustainable, help children that need education. They deserve it. They are the ones that are making a difference. I only hope to be able to achieve just a fraction of that. But thank you for this. As I mentioned in my presentation, I didn't do this alone. It was definitely my classmates at ECE, Holly, Larry, Camille, Alan, Steve, my wife, Sandra. They're really my inspiration. They were my teammates. I couldn't do this alone. And the folks listening, you shouldn't try. It's always better with others. It's always better when your journey can be shared, both the success and the failures. And so I would encourage you to do that, as I did. And I was very fortunate to be surrounded by really good people. And I think that's what UC Davis and the College of Engineering does for you, is it surrounds you with really positive, good people that want you to be successful. And so I appreciate that. And lastly, I just want to thank my mom and dad. I mean, all of this wouldn't have happened without them. We weren't rich. We were actually very poor growing up, but the family was rich with love and support. And my mom and dad was always there for me. So I really want to thank my family as well. So thank you, guys.